The Buffalo Sabres currently have the longest active playoff drought among all 31 NHL teams, currently sitting at 8 seasons. And unless something changes from now until April 4th, the number will move to 9 seasons without a playoff appearance. It's been a tough decade for the Sabres and their fans. The playoff drought has seen some awful seasons by the Sabres, most notably when the team finished the 2014-15 season with an abysmal record of 23-51-8 and finished dead last in the entire NHL. They did, however, pick a good year to be awful, considering the 2015 NHL draft was going to be headlined by Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel. And in all honesty, it was pretty obvious the Buffalo Sabres wanted to make sure they had the best odds at the #1 overall pick. And then of course came April 18th of 2015, the day that would determine who would land generational talent Connor McDavid. And of course, we all know how that turned out. The Oilers landed the first overall pick for the 4th time in the previous 6 NHL drafts. And while yeah, it may have been disappointing at the time for the Sabres, it wasn't all that bad, considering a player the caliber of Jack Eichel would still be on the board when they made their selection at number 2. The 2015 draft had come and gone, and everything went as expected, with the Oilers selecting Connor McDavid with the first overall pick, and the Sabres settling for Jack Eichel at number 2. As expected, Eichel made the team out of camp, and would go on to have a solid rookie campaign, finishing second on the Sabres in scoring with 56 points in 81 games. The next 2 seasons, though, both came with injuries, as Eichel only played 128 out of 164 possible games from the start of the 2016-17 season to the end of the 2017-18 season. But luckily for Eichel, that didn't become a trend, as he stayed relatively healthy last year, playing in 77 games and putting up a career-high 82 points. And fast forward to today, Jack Eichel has blossomed into the franchise talent that the Sabres drafted him to be, as in 51 games, Eichel already has a career-high 31 goals to go along with 35 assists for a total of 66 points in just 53 games, which puts Eichel tied for 8th in the league in scoring with Patrick Kane. Overall, Eichel has had a great start to his young career, at least individually that is, because the Sabres still haven't broken the playoff drought, or even came close with Jack Eichel on the roster. The Sabres' best finish to a season since Eichel came along, that would be his rookie season, where the Sabres finished with 81 points. I'm sure it is safe to say that Eichel is probably getting pretty sick and tired of all the losing, and it has to be even tougher considering how promising the Sabres have started the past 2 years, but then have fallen back to being mediocre at best after just a couple of months. And as of right now, they are not completely out of the Eastern Conference playoff race, but they have made things pretty tough on themselves, as they currently sit 11 points out of the second wildcard spot with 28 games to go in the season. They have to start stringing some wins together soon, or they're just going to run out of time. The Sabres have now lost 5 of their past 6 games, including a loss to the Ottawa Senators on January 28th. That is a team that they absolutely have to beat, and most recently they lost to the Detroit Red Wings last night, a Detroit team that had only won 12 times in 54 games coming into it, and that loss was the first game after Sam Reinhart called out his team, saying a lot of guys need to step the hell up. Reinhart went on to offer a seemingly lazy effort while backchecking on a Larkin goal late in the first period, and would also refuse to comment on it when asked about it after the game. Overall, this is definitely the lowest point in the season for Buffalo, and things have to get better from here, right? I mean, how much more losing is Jack Eichel going to take before maybe deciding enough is enough and trying to move his way out of Buffalo? That is obviously worst case scenario, but I mean, it is possible. And now I want to take a look at some superstar players who were drafted highly in recent memory and see how long it took them to make the playoffs, and just kind of compare their situations to the one that Jack Eichel is currently in with the Buffalo Sabres. I'll start off with one that comes to mind right away, and that is John Tavares, who was selected with the first overall pick in the 2009 NHL draft by the New York Islanders. Tavares would go on to lead the Islanders in scoring in each of his first 3 seasons in the league, but all of them resulted in New York missing the playoffs. But finally, in the lockout-shortened 2012-2013 season, the Islanders would get their first playoff berth with John Tavares on the team. The playoff run did only last 6 games, but they had to start somewhere, and unfortunately, the following season, the Islanders would go back to missing the playoffs, but JT only played in 59 games, so I guess they did have an excuse. The Islanders would then put together a couple of strong seasons in a row, making the playoffs the next 2 years, but they failed to really put together a good postseason run past the second round. And then, of course, in each of Tavares' 2 final years on the island, Island, they missed the playoffs, resulting in John Tavares deciding to sign with his hometown Toronto Maple Leafs as a UFA in the summer of 2018. For 9 seasons, the Islanders failed to put a team around John Tavares that could contend, and I guess he had enough. Eichel will have to wait a little longer before getting the opportunity to test the market as a UFA because he still has 6 years left on his deal after this season. The other situation I'll compare Eichel's to is Taylor Hall, who the Oilers selected with the first overall pick in the 2010 NHL draft. 6 years Hall spent with the Edmonton Oilers after being drafted, none of which he made the playoffs in, before then being traded straight up for Adam Larson in the summer of 2016. Poor Taylor Hall has still only played in a total of 5 playoff games since being drafted, but now that he's a member of the Arizona Coyotes, hopefully he's going to get an opportunity this season to have a pretty decent playoff run. And those are just 2 examples of stars being taken with a high pick and their team not being able to build anything around them, both of which cases resulted in the star finding a new home eventually. And no, I'm not saying that is definitely what's going to happen with Jack Eichel, but it could. Luckily for Buffalo, they do have one of the easier schedules remaining in the NHL from now till the end of the season, as they play 17 non-playoff teams and 11 playoff teams. But seeing as the way the Buffalo Sabres have played against some of the league's worst teams of late, I don't even really know if that matters much for them. Another plus for Buffalo is rookie Victor Olofsson, who has not played since January 2nd due to a lower body injury, should be returning soon, and that would be a massive help seeing as he is 3rd on the team in scoring even though he has only played in 42 games. The Sabres should also be getting former number 1 overall pick Rasmus Dahlin back soon, which will obviously be a massive help on the blue line, and hopefully starting goaltender Linus Ullmark can make his return to the lineup before it's too late, because he was having a great season and was a big reason why Buffalo was winning a lot of games earlier in the year. It's definitely going to be tough for Buffalo to get back into the race, but it is doable, and like Sam Reinhart said, a lot of guys need to step the hell up. Most importantly, in my opinion, Jeff Skinner has to play better. Only 11 goals and 19 points in 44 games for somebody who scored 40 goals last year and signed for $9 million per season in the summer. They need a lot more production from him, and he should also be pretty sick and tired of losing, considering he has played in 705 career NHL games and has yet to make the playoffs once. And they also need Carter Hutton to hold down the fort until Ullmark returns from injury, because so far this season, Hutton really hasn't done Buffalo any favors and currently has a record of 7-9-4 to go along with an .891 save percentage and a 3.3 goals against average. A lot of things have to go right if Buffalo wants to turn their season around, and it's not like they can just go and fire head coach Ralph Krueger, who is in his first season with the team. That just wouldn't make any sense. Krueger is already the 3rd different head coach Eichel has had, and he's only 23 years old. If things continue on this path for the rest of the season, and the Sabres do miss out on the playoffs for a 9th consecutive year, it's going to be a very interesting offseason for them. But if they do somehow miraculously find their way into the postseason, you can bet Jack Eichel is going to get a ton of consideration for the Hart Trophy. And yesterday I was listening to the guys on TSN Overdrive. I love to listen to their takes on sports, and they were talking about if Jack Eichel could potentially want out of Buffalo if things don't improve. Pretty much what we are talking about in today's video. And I thought all of them brought up pretty good points. Brian Hayes and Jeff O'Neill were both pretty adamant that they could see it happening if Buffalo doesn't turn things around, while Jamie McClellan on the other hand wasn't really so sure about it. If you guys haven't heard it, I definitely recommend you go watch it. It's on TSN's YouTube channel. It's only about 4.5 minutes long. It won't take very long at all, but if this is a situation that you guys are interested in and you want to hear their thoughts, I definitely recommend it. Something Jamie McClellan brought up that I thought was very interesting was when he said that Jack Eichel, if he did ever want to request a trade, would have to do it publicly and make a big scene, because if he were to do it behind closed doors, the GM would try to just make things work and obviously not grant Eichel's request, because a player of his caliber don't come around on your team too often. He went on to say players ask for a trade every year, but it's behind closed doors. But if you make something like that public, then there's a lot of pressure on the general manager to make something like that happen. So that is basically going to do it for today's video. Make sure to let me know down in the comment section below what your guys' thoughts are on the Buffalo Sabres, especially if you're a fan of the team. You would probably know better than anyone else. What do you think the main issue is in Buffalo right now, and do you think there is any possible chance that if things don't start to get better in Buffalo over the coming years, that Eichel could potentially want out? And I know we don't really see stuff like this happen too often in the NHL, especially a player the caliber of Jack Eichel, but we already saw something similar to this happen in Buffalo, where Ryan O'Reilly came out and said he's losing his love for the game and would like to be traded away. He ultimately was moved, and now he is a pivotal pivotal part of St. Louis, who won a Stanley Cup and are currently one of the best teams in the NHL. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much all for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to go down there and smash the like button, and if you guys want to see more NHL content like this, make sure to click that subscribe button, and I will see you guys all in the next video.